Well, hello and welcome to Big Country Politics. I am Manny Diaz. Joining us today is Mr. John Lira. He is a Democrat congressional candidate from District 23. That is the San Antonio area, spans from San Antonio all the way to El Paso. It's one of the biggest districts in the entire nation. Mr. John Lira, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Absolutely, Mr. Diaz. Honored for you reaching out and happy to show the folks the importance of this race, let them know a little bit more about me.
Absolutely. Well, you're challenging Republican Tony Gonzales for the District 23 congressional seat. You're a veteran just like he is. Tell me, what inspired you to enter this race?
Well, a lot of things. I can say three main ones. Is one, a continuation of service. Since I joined the Marines at the age of 17 and was deployed to Iraq twice, given the job in military intelligence, I wanted to continue serving my country at the highest levels. I've wanted to deploy where the challenges are greatest. And nowhere else, I think, are the challenges more greatest than in Texas 23. As you know, we have 820 miles of Texas-Mexico border. We just had the horrible Uvalde school shooting. We have very important things going on in this district that are very consequential, not only to Texans, but to our nation as a whole. And finally, I'd say, if Tony Gonzales was doing his job as a moderate and representing our district the way it needs to be represented and in being at the forefront of the issues that we need him to be at the forefront of, I wouldn't be in this race. But quite frankly, I feel that there's a huge leadership deficit in our current representative. So this is why I jumped into this race.
Definitely. Well, I think everyone can agree, Democrat, independent, or Republican, that gun violence in this country, something needs to be done about that. You said following the tragic school shooting in Uvalde that weapons like the ones you saw in Iraq were used in the Uvalde mass shooting. Uvalde, by the way, is in District 23. What is your stance on gun control, and how does it differ from your opponent, Tony Gonzales?
Listen, I'm a firm believer and protector of the Second Amendment. I am a responsible gun owner myself, so I'm not trying to take anyone's guns. What we are trying to do is make sure that they stay out of the hands of our children who might not have the mindset to carry those weapons yet, and criminals and folks who intend to do harm to themselves or others. I think a lot of the provisions that were passed in the Protecting Our Kids Act met a lot of those gun safety standards. We want safer gun ownership. We want parents to teach their children how to, potentially store and treat guns. We want to treat them with respect. Right now in Texas, I think we have a gun culture where everyone should be allowed to have one and to carry one everywhere they go. And since the passing of constitutional carry, we've seen an uprise, not only in Texas of mass shootings, but across the nation as other states begin to adopt these very liberal gun access bills. Mm-hmm. So I support, responsible carry. I do want to increase the age limit. If you want to have one of these semi-automatic, high-capacity, high-velocity weapons, then I believe you should go enhanced background checks, enhanced training, and enhanced licensing to have one of those.
Well, valid points there. Well, Congressman Dan Crenshaw has introduced an asylum bill that would crack down on what he calls asylum fraud to fix the loopholes in our immigration system, something that could potentially ask migrants to claim asylum elsewhere and not at our southern border. As a congressman, how would you address potential bills like this in our immigration system?
Let's be clear up front. Our asylum and immigration laws are old and outdated and are in desperate need of reform. And to speak on Mr. Crenshaw's bill, I didn't read the details to the fullest extent, but I do support, in-country processing centers. I do believe that the process can be and maybe ought to be initiated, not when they step foot on American soil, but maybe at some U.S. embassies, whether in Mexico or their home country. I think that would eliminate a lot of what we're seeing right here on our doorstep. This is a beginning, a middle, and the end. And by the time they make it to our borders, that's already their end of their journey, and it starts the beginning of our journey as America, looking to kind of care for them. But so I somewhat agree with that. Our asylum laws were not meant for 5,000, 10,000 person caravans. And quite frankly, our immigration laws, when you have to wait 10 to 15 years just to get a response back, for your green card application, that's busted also. So there are no legal routes for many of these migrants that are trying to get to the U.S. to seek a better life, and they're choosing the most extreme, like we saw in San Antonio, where they pile up in the back of a 18-wheeler freight, a sweltering heat, and we lost 53 of them out of the 100 or so that were in there. We're a better country than that. We do not have an immigration system that is befitting our nation of immigrants.
Mr. John Lira joining us here on Big Country Politics. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about, well, a Democrat colleague that's perhaps that took a very, very big donation from someone that's very, very well known. We'll get his thoughts on that, plus much more when we return. This is Big Country Politics. Well, welcome back to Big Country Politics. I'm Manny Diaz. Today we are joined by John Lira. He's running as a Democrat for Congress down in District 23. Mind you, that spans from South San Antonio all the way to El Paso. It's one of the biggest districts in the entire nation. As we kind of continue our chat here, John, it was recently revealed through campaign finance reports that Robert Francis O'Rourke, aka Beto, received a $1 million donation from George Soros. Say what you want about George. We're not going to get into any of that. Tell me, would you be open to a donation like that and from a man like Mr. Soros?
Hey, well, I'll tell you, it's not my job necessarily to defend Beto O'Rourke. He's got a lot of great staff that are able to do that for him. But I will tell you this, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a doctor, I don't have a line of influential people that are lined up to give me money. What I have to do is meet people where they are, get in contact with people, and tell them the importance of this race, what we're trying to do, and encourage them to invest in our vision. I was certainly not, of course we have campaign limits, so I could not be able to accept any donation larger than $2,900. But if there is anyone, whether a Republican, whether a Democrat, whether a corporation who would want to support the vision that we have here in Texas 23 to fix our border, to bring around gun safety, to do infrastructure investment in our rural communities, I will be a partner with them, and I would be happy to have their investment and see how we can work together.
Now, you seem to be somewhat of a moderate, someone that's not, as progressive as other Democrats. And this is kind of just an observation here. Mr. Soros appears to, fund a lot of more progressive Democrats. Is that somebody in your wheelhouse, or are you trying to appeal more to more of a moderate constituent there?
Well, I hate to kind of label myself any which way, but I would say that I am a moderate Democrat for the most part. This is a moderate district. Again, we have some of the rubiest red of counties and some of the blueberriest of blue counties. Mm-hmm. And both constituents from both counties have to know that they're going to have a partner to work with. I will give them an honest handshake. I will give them an honest conversation. And if they wanted to work to improve our families and our communities out here, I'm a partner. Now, again, we do need national donors, and we do have national donors. I have never met or spoke with Mr. Soros personally, but if he wanted to help us out on this campaign and bring our vision and bring, honest representation to our border, I wouldn't necessarily, write him off. I think we need all the help we can get here. Like I said, happy to be a partner and kind of collaborate with anybody who wants to build up the families here in Texas 23.
Mm-hmm. Well, both parties, left and right, have their extremes. And since the last election, well, those extremes have come out in full force. Can we ever, as a country, achieve moderate political views?
That is a great question. And, I think, yes, I'm an optimist. I want to say absolutely. I want to say that both parties will always have their extremes that are pushing us to do a little bit more on either direction. I do not have any problems with my progressive colleagues. I believe in their vision. I believe in their bold vision for our country. And it's just the timing and the process of how we get there. But I absolutely believe so. I believe moderates, one key thing is that they can listen and understand and work with both sides of the aisle. They know both sides of each issue. And they try to really do, and at least my standpoint, really try to do what's best for America. I didn't grow up watching MSNBC. I didn't grow up watching Fox News. I grew up saluting the flag in the Marine Corps and fighting for the American values. And that's exactly what I plan to continue doing on the floor of the House chamber with Democratic and Republican colleagues.
Well, District 23 includes over 800 miles of Texas-Mexico border, along with 5 ports of entry from San Antonio to El Paso. Tell me, what are the people of District 23 sharing with you that they would like to see change the most?
Yeah, I think, I've been down to the border several times in Eagle Pass and Del Rio and talked with the great folks there. And there is a feeling of concern, they want a resolution to the migrant issues. They're tired of seeing groups of people walking through their neighborhoods, taking over abandoned houses. It's a public healthy and a public safety concern for them. So they want to see more action done. They said that Joe Biden has promised a lot and they haven't really seen a lot. So I join them in that. I want the president to step up and do a bit more. But also they're feeling over-policed with Greg Abbott's Operation Lone Star. They're seeing police and DPS and every other stop sign, and they don't like that either. They're concerned about Operation Lone Star and the use of the National Guard, especially with the National Guard seem to be, having issues like suicide and pay delays and no real end for the mission. So there's some also concern there too. Up in El Paso, it's a different concern. They're more about family reunification. They're more about our broken immigration system versus the asylum and migrants. They want legal pathways so that their families can come over because they've been submitted their application 5, 10, 15 years ago. So we do want more. I mean, this district alone has 40% of the Texas-Mexico border, and they want a congressman who's going to be there fighting at the forefront of those border issues. And it's 5 things for me. It's refugee asylum reform. It's our immigration reform. It's our work visa program reform. It is our free flow of commerce, because we saw what happens when Greg Abbott shut down our binational ports of entry. And of course, it's anti-smuggling, anti-narcotics, and anti-human trafficking. Those are the 5 elements that I see at play. Some Democrats might want a big comprehensive bill where it's grouped all together. I want to make moves on each one of those policy areas as rapidly as we can.
Real quick, John, for people that are interested, I know this isn't your constituent base out here in West Texas, certainly in the big country, but if people want to hear more about you, read more about you, see things about you, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So my website is liraforcongress.com. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I've done some great podcasts lately, especially SA Live that you had mentioned before. And, I'm talking publicly about my stances, and please reach out to me directly, through our campaign emails and web pages. I'm happy to answer or take on any additional interviews when folks want to know a little bit more about me, my policy stances, and about this important race.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Lira, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Anytime, Mr. Diaz. You have a great one.
All right. John Lira, Democrat congressional candidate for District 23, challenging the incumbent Tony Gonzales. For Mr. John Lira, I'm Manny Diaz, and this has been another edition of Big Country Politics.